Hello, ladies and gents. It is Wednesday, the 12th of January 2022. It is the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson and Proclamation News and Gatherance. We're going to work on that progressive progression. We're going to do more for God today than we did yesterday. Tomorrow, I'm going to do more for God tomorrow than I did today. Hallelujah. Praise God. Thanks for coming through, ladies and gents. We're going to be back exactly the same as yesterday, being methodical in practice as we approach today's modern climate. Let's think safety, think first before we enter UK roads. Sounds ironic, sounds coherent, keep repeating myself, but many incidents are happening on the road daily, and this is why I commit to promote car incidents inside the UK. Do not enter a vehicle without a driving licence. Sounds ironic, but so many incidents on the road. We're going to keep going and keep moving forward. How many incidents are there? There's incidents, there's road work, there's congestion, there's road closure, there's lane closed, and there's weather incidents. Majority of car incidents are usually on the weekend when juveniles, youth of today, are in their vehicle without no licence or insurance, cars tax, or under the influence of alcoholism, sleep deprivation, or under the influence of narcotics. Check your engine oil, your water coolant tank, make sure they're topped up to maximum level. Check for your PSI limits on the side of the treaded tyres. It's got the appropriate amount of air pressure to put in tyres. And check if your tyres are bowled. Make sure you and passengers have seat belts adjacent to the car seat, and babies have seat belts adjacent to the car seat. It's down to you, the driver, to make sure. Check for further police actions, road safety signs. Check your centre mirror, wing mirror before turning, acting into safe, sufficient directional choice. Make sure motorists, cyclists, and motorcycles are not overtaken. Checking your opposing over your opposing shoulder just before you indicate the turn. Check for roadworks. Check for road workers living behind the Harris fencing, just in case you're about to step on the road. You've got to drive vigilantly around roadworks. It's common sense. It's stuff you've done it in your theory, but we need to preach this to not the youth of today, and some young adults still drink, still think, oh, I've had a couple of bottles of wine, a couple of bottles of bud, and they go down a shop to nip to get some cigarettes. Is that necessary? Is it necessary that you need to go down the shop? Can it not wait? Can you not get a taxi? Can you not get an Uber to drop it off? If you can't afford to drink, don't drink. That's my theory. I don't drink. I don't take narcotics. I'm on the ball 24/7, 365 days a year. We're going to look at some of the incidents today. Inside Ipswich, Suffolk, there's a car incident. A1214. Slow traffic on A1214, Colchester Road, both ways at Westmisnter Road. In the construction area, Tempe traffic lights. 2:22 p.m. first reported. A12, slow traffic on A12, northbound at A14, junction 55, Cop Dock interchange. This is reported at 2:22. So these are still in place, literally only just happened, so there you go. I'm going to move a bit closer to London. Got an incident in Stevenage, Greater London at the moment. A6129, queue and traffic construction area. Stanborough Road, southbound between Lemsford Lane and B197. In the construction area, Tempe traffic lights. 2:20 p.m. first reported. East, kind of Essex, East London, Ilford. Partially blocked building fire, traffic coping well. At the house on Ford Road near Moss Road, traffic is coping well. 4 fire engines tending between the Heathway and Church Elm Lane. Damping down now. 10:27 a.m. first reported. We're going to go into a bit more central of London. A3211, queue and traffic on A13221, Lower Thames Street, eastbound at A100. Bywood Street, 2:15 p.m. first reported. A406, queuing traffic, North Circular, eastbound at A1110, Bowes Road. 2:14 p.m. first reported. Just want to say thank you for coming through. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, share the news with youth of today. The road users using the road not appropriately, incompetently, incomprehensible, acting inappropriate at all times behind the wheel. There's a lot of shout out in the media about 2020. We're in 2022. I don't know why they're still going on about it. I mean, it's been coherent in the media about Boris Johnson held a party. I mean, there's several other ministers at the party and they're all trying to blame one man. Because he's Prime Minister, obviously, but they're trying to put the blame onto one man. There's several other ministers there, and there's also ministers from all sides of the fence of politics breaking the law through COVID, getting a train when they had COVID, getting a train from X amount of miles when it shouldn't be. And they're trying to throw this massive blame on Boris Johnson for having a lockdown party. It was outside, and it was in May. Outside in May. Is it a big thing? I mean, police break the law to a certain extent. Well, I know they do. I'm not going to put the old bill down for the job they do to make our safety, which is paramount. But all these authorities, they have authority and they take liberties out of the authority because they can. But this is the consequence, trying to make examples of the authority breaking the law. Boris Johnson faces calls to quit after lockdown party apology. But should he quit? I mean, let's have a look at what Boris Johnson's done. Made bigger, better infrastructure. Better roads, better airports, more NHS workers, more police, more policing. He's made our safety paramount, which is very, very important. And he's trying to get help with your energy prices, which, I've noticed a massive significance to detrimental my satisfaction in my own self, in my own well-being. So if any of you guys that might be awarded some sort of support, and the furlough scheme as well, that's not just all Boris, but it's it's all the ministers put together. Why are they going to want to axe a man the only man that passed Brexit when Theresa May couldn't? Anyway, you'll vote for Brexit, but now you want to criticise the man that helped you pass Brexit through legislation. Crazy. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has apologised for attending a Bring Your Own Booze party during the first coronavirus lockdown. He told MPs the event in Downing Street Garden was technically within the rules. He should have realised how it would look to the public. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer said the PM must now quit over what he called his ridiculous lies and excuses. I think Starmer thinks he's going to be the one in the driving seat. I mean, the guy's hasn't got much experience. I mean, Boris Johnson's got 38 years experience. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it should happen to give the seat up for that plonker. Prize plonker. Anyway, Mr Johnson is also under pressure from his own MPs over May the 2020 party. He toured the Commons tea rooms where MPs gather after his statement to shore up support among his backbenchers. If the 53 of them send letters to the 1922 committee, the influential backbench group, which runs Tory leadership contests, it will trigger a challenge. A senior Tory source said Mr Johnson looked battered and crestfallen as he spoke to his MPs, and that he'd lost what made him successful with his party. Backbencher Sir Roger Gale, a frequent critic of Mr Johnson, said that politically the PM was now a dead man walking. Minister Rachel Maclean warned there were consequences for those who had broken the law regarding coronavirus restrictions. Speaking to BBC Two Politics Live, she said the law of the land applies to everybody, including the Prime Minister. The people that make the laws are also the subject of the laws, and that's why we've got this due process of the inquiry to find out exactly what went on. And if any laws were broken, there will be consequences. But other Tory MPs rallied behind the Prime Minister, with Sir Christopher Chope saying he had never heard such an abject apology in his time in Parliament, and he believed it was genuinely sincere. The Commons fell silent at the start of the Prime Minister's questions, and Mr Johnson admitted he had been at a Downing Street party 20 May 2020 for about 25 minutes, so that he could thank groups of staff for their hard work. He said, I believed implicitly that this was a work event. But he added, with hindsight, I should have sent everyone back inside. I should have found some other way to thank them, and I should have recognised that, even if it could have been said technically to fall within the guidance, there would be millions and millions of people who simply would not see it that way. He sat stony faced, and the opposition MPs called for him to quit as Prime Minister, or for his own MPs to force him out. In all, the Prime Minister faced 8 calls to stand down during a Commons question session. Tory MPs, by and large, used the session to ask questions about constituency projects and coronavirus. Sir Keir Starmer said, there we have it. After months of deceit and deception, the pathetic spectacle of a man who has run out of road. His defence that he didn't realise he was at a party is so ridiculous that it is actually offensive to the British public. He's finally been forced to admit what everyone knew. That's when the whole country was locked down. We was hosting boozing parties in Downing Street. Is he now going to do the decent thing and resign? Mr Johnson said he understood the rage of people who had made huge sacrifices about this pandemic. At the thought that people in Downing Street were not following those rules. I regret the way the event I have described was handled. I bitterly regret it and wish that we could have done things differently. I mean, all Boris Johnson's got to do to come back from this is ignore the scripture. It's 2 years ago, and look what we're still building on. I think he's, a man in that position where he's been in the business so long that it'd be ducks or water's back. He'd go for one end and come out the other and just move on and still progress, bring on great significance to the, our safety. Rolling out a vaccine is one of them. I don't think the Prime Minister's statement makes an issue go away at all. He tried to strike a different tone today. There was no smirk, no swagger, none of the usual Johnson gags. His admission may have brought him some time, but he is basically pleading with his party to wait for the inquiry to conclude before they make their mind up. However, some people will see this as being a non-apology. Mr Johnson urged MPs to wait for the outcome of an inquiry by senior civil servant Sue Gray into alleged COVID law-breaking in Downing Street, which he said will report as soon as possible. SNP Westminster leader Ian Blackford said that if Mr Johnson had no sense of shame, then the Tory backbenchers must act to remove him. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey also called for PM to resign. Later, Tory MP Stephen Hammond told BBC Radio 4 The World at One that Mr Johnson had demonstrated some transparency by admitting his mistakes. But he added, it was clearly not a work event, and that is the problem. And I think it is pretty surprising the Prime Minister wasn't briefed to that effect. He said his constituents would still feel let down, having heard a bit of an apology from the PM. I mean, he hasn't done nothing, physically by breaking law. Is it really worth getting out of line over something so minute? I think it's going to be something that's just going to be blown out of the water. It's not really breaking the law, is it? I know that he put restrictions there in place. Health ministers put restrictions, but he was outdoors. He wasn't significantly breaking the law or having a party inside his house. Otherwise, the whole world would be in prison by now. Let's face it. What's happening on my radio? Hang on. Bear with me, bits. I'm going to share my glasses.
And your husband missed you all?
Well, at that point, he had decided
disabled his phone because he had some kind of confusion episode. We think it might have been sepsis at that time. And he was incoherent some of the time. And so even when he did call, he couldn't make any sense. And honestly, it was just a nightmare. We couldn't communicate with him, and he was just lying in that bed. And we don't know if what was going on with him. So,
it's very hard for you to know that his last words were depressed and lonely.
That's going to haunt me till I go to my own grave. I'll never get over this, just like your other caller said. I mean, how can you? Yeah. There's just too much trauma around it, And
it's early days. I'll say to you what I said to Paul about his dad. It's very early days, and I'm not telling you what to feel. You feel what you feel, Sakina. But you had a whole life with your husband. It wasn't just those last 2 words, was it?
No, it wasn't.
And I know it's acute at the moment, but
Yeah. But to hear those last words, and remember, they were the last words he ever struggled to say, and he did struggle. He really, really struggled because he had an oxygen mask on, and he removed it, and he told them, "I'm lonely and I'm depressed."
So you clearly think it's time for Boris Johnson to go, you said a moment ago.
Oh, most definitely. I never voted for him in the first place, but when he got in, my husband and me said, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think I should have followed my gut then. I knew that it wasn't going to be good. And yeah, he most definitely needs to go. He needs to go like yesterday.
And if it's credible to you or to anybody, if it's credible that he felt it was an extension of the office, and that's all, could you forgive that? Forgive's too big a word, I suppose, but could you see it differently?
Well, I don't think under these circumstances now, I think there's been too much hearing things like let the dead bodies pile up and so many other things along the way. I don't think so. I really think we need someone fresh in there. I don't think, for me, I would have any faith in him at all.
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? It's a question of trust now, I think. Sakina, thank you, and I'm sorry for your loss as well. That's Sakina, who lost her husband a year ago. It's 18 minutes past 3.
This is LBC.
There's a lot of talk about COVID vaccines and the like. And with so many people all talking about it at the same time, it's hard to get the real facts. So far in Essex, over 1 million people have been vaccinated. So if you want to know about COVID vaccines, why they're important, and bust a few myths along the way, here's your hub for everything COVID. Go to essex.everythingcovid.info.
Imagine how it'd feel to win £10,000. Like you'd smashed it. With Set for Life, you could win £10,000 every month for 30 years. Set for Life from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Play Thursday on app, online and in-store. Prize may be capped. Account terms, rules, procedures and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 18 or over.
Health. It affects everyone. That's why Benenden Health believes in access to affordable private healthcare for ordinary folk and the always-on-the-move folk, for the tired new parent folk and the extra peace of mind folk. Affordable private healthcare for them, for you, well, for everyone. For just £11.90 per person per month. Search Benenden Health. Here for you, not for profit. Minimum wait times, limits and exclusions apply. Fee reviewed annually. The benefits periodically.
Experience one of those rare moments where you find everything you need and everything you desire. The new all-electric BMW range brings you the performance and handling you expect with all the styling, detailing and comfort you could wish for. From the new iX or iX3 sports activity vehicle and i4 Grand Coupe to the iconic i3 Sports Hatch, the BMW all-electric range offers all the functionality you need. Find your BMW electric. Discover more at your local BMW centre or search bmw.co.uk.
Tesco Bank's new payment card, Clubcard Pay Plus, gives you the power to make your money go further. You can pay, save and pick up extra points wherever you shop, whether that's the movies with the little monsters, a family meal out, or just the weekly shop. Plus, spend at Tesco and get double points for the first 3 months. Clubcard Pay Plus provided by Tesco Bank. Apply online now. Every little helps. Minimum spend and exclusions apply when collecting points. Available to Tesco Club Card members age 18 plus. UK residents only, subject to status.
Give your new kitten the love they deserve, and Pets in a Pickle will cover the rest. For pet insurance policies as unique as they are, visit petsinappickle.co.uk.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Let's talk to Russell in Bristol about this situation with Boris Johnson and the Downing Street parties. Russell, hello.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Yeah. How are you reading these events?
I am so frustrated. I got a horrible feeling that they're after Boris Johnson, not the actual government. Everybody hates Boris, you know. He's made mistakes, and he's admitted them and done that. But it turns out that that's not good enough.
The prime ministers have a huge amount of power in this country, you know.
And they do. And when they get it wrong, they should admit they got it wrong. And today, to be honest, I would say hated the bloke, but I thought he was a bad man. But today, it sounded I was on his side of it. He apologised.
Like he's saying, someone's actually sticking up for him now. It needs to be said. It needs to be spoken about. Look at all the politicians that have been paedophiles, letting paedophiles out of prison. Sir Keir Starmer's one of them, and he's one of the critics in the media that you hear in what you read in the newspaper. He's calling Captain Hindsight, this, that, and the other, trying to put him to pieces. Because obviously Boris Johnson pulled him to pieces in charades many times. I think he's just trying to get one back. But he is the one that let out Jimmy Savile. He was the one that let him out in the allegations in courts and all that. He hasn't got a great deal of experience in politics world. So, I mean, if he was to take the leader role, what would he achieve? Labour are always jumping on the back of Conservative bandwagon anyway when it comes to do with supporting democracy, with saving money, bringing some money into the economy to pay energy prices for families that are suffering energy soaring prices. They're giving out, the local government, local councils are supporting these families, vulnerable families. So we can't do but love what Boris has done and be thankful. And the furlough scheme, when you think of everyone's been signed off work. Also, extra payment for struggling families as well. Anyway, moving on. Thank you for the whole government.
Or even whether Boris Johnson's own policies cause deaths or not. They are both entirely separate, I think, to this conversation. The conversation that people appear to want with me, and the one that I want to have with them, is the lack of moral leadership at a time when moral leadership was absolutely vital, because the government, headed by Boris Johnson, had imposed the most draconian laws on our day-to-day lives that have been seen since the Second World War. Most of us understood why. Clearly, the Prime Minister was sloppy enough to think he didn't need to abide by them all himself within a month of being in intensive care. I mean, it's just
if I may answer that, I haven't got a clue what I'm about. No, the man of the parade. The man of the party and the fact that, the man of the party and the fact that a lot of people died on the same day, that is not his fault.
But you've just failed to listen to what you said there.
Also, what you got to remember with everyone criticising, they let Tony Blair finish his years off in the office. Tony Blair is the one that set up the Gulf War. Remember, I bet all the Labour supporters there were all, jumping around in the office, jumping around the street, thinking all Labour in power, but he's the one that fled the country. He's the one that started the war, the warmonger, and fled the country. It is ironic, very, very ironic that everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon now. Very, very ironic. One little slip and everyone's jumping on it. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. When you compare and contrast old stuff, you think, well, this was this, that was that. I mean, Labour also had paedophile politicians in their party. Obviously, as soon as that comes in the media, they've got to be sanctioned from their job because they're working through vulnerable adults. Some have been in connection with paedophilia, get let out and they're allowed back as a politician, independent but they're allowed back as a politician. It's crazy. Anyway, lots of students tell MPs of sadistic nightclub spiking. The student who said she was spiked with a needle told MPs she believes the cruel and horrible act was done for commodic effect. Sarah Owen said she blacked out soon after arriving at a club in October despite drinking in moderation. 20-year-old said she felt the attack was a sadistic pleasure. The Parliamentary Committee also heard for more staff training in easier ways to report attacks and spiking to be made a specific offence. House of Commons Home Affairs opened an inquiry into spiking incidents in December. They should have cameras up all around the bars in these nightclubs. It's hard when if your dance floor is busy, you can smoke going on or whatever. Like some dance floor, it's hard to spot what's going on. Mind blowing. Miss Owen, a French and Spanish student at the University of Nottingham, said she went with a friend at Quinton nightclub in Nottingham city centre. I cannot remember anything else from the evening. She said she was found alone in a takeaway. In the morning, found a pinprick mark on her leg. While speaking to MPs, she was asked about what she thought was the motivation for attack. She said the humour, for comedic effect. It's a question I've asked myself. What's the gain from this? What drives somebody to inject somebody with a drug? It's a sadistic feeling someone must have to do it for fun, but it's so dangerous. It's mind-blowing someone could drive himself to the act, she says. Alex Skinsters from South Wales got leading hospital checks after his drink was tampered while in a club on Monday in Las Vegas. He felt the motivation was robbery and he had won some money from the casino. He told the committee, "Where I was, there were no signs or warnings." It shook me a bit as the manager and security openly said it happened quite a lot. You'd think there would be more awareness of it. Julia Spencer said, head of student wellbeing at the University of Lincoln, said in November that he had started a testing program for those who reported being spiked. Of 30 results, only one had been positive for chemical additives, while others had likely been affected by having more alcohol added to their drink, she said. We need to educate people about what measures of this alcohol is, and adding alcohol is a form of spiking. Spiking can happen anyway. Many of our cases happened at private parties and were carried out by the wider circle of friends. The committee also had support from campaign organisations which call for an easier way to report incidents, more awareness for both bar staff and medical personnel, and for tampering with drinks to be made a criminal offence in its own right. Sort this whole thing out. In December, Nottinghamshire Police said it had received 146 reports of alleged needle spiking within 143 cases, where people believed the drinks had been tampered with. Miss Owen said there was pleased with the police response since she reported her case, but has called for stricter security checks on entry on nightclubs and additional measures when potential victims are attending hospital. I was one of the first, so I think people were a bit shocked, she said. I was at hospital for 8 hours and I had to triage and background checks, and that was it. If I want them to do some sort of checkup, if you've got a drug inside your body, it could be something to affect that. They can take our experience of it as a stepping stone to sort this whole thing out. Tilbury murder investigation. Man dies just after being attacked in Essex Town. A man died in hospital just after being attacked in Essex. The man in his 30s was found injured in Freedom Highway in Tilbury shortly after 9:45 p.m. on Sunday, January 2nd, before being taken to hospital. Sadly, police have now confirmed he has died after 10 days fighting for his life in hospital. A 19-year-old Daniel Curtin at Chester Way, Tilbury, was charged with attempted murder and possession of an offensive weapon on January 5th. Essex police have now raised an investigation to a homicide inquiry. Curtin will appear back in Crown Court on February 3rd. It has been an outpouring of support for the victim, are remaining hospital and tributes are already being posted on social media. One message of support came from boxing legend Tyson Fury, who called on the victim to fight and stay strong. Detective Inspector Julie Gowan, who's leading the investigation, said, "I want to express our condolences to the man's family at this incredibly difficult time. Our investigation is progressing well, but still need anyone who has not spoken to us or saw anything via CCTV cam of doorbell footage. Any further information to come forward." Dinosaurs coming to Essex in exciting new attraction. The attraction at Mars Farm will feature some of the most iconic dinosaurs. Plans for dinosaurs to visit popular Southwood Ferris at the attraction have been approved despite concerns over traffic levels. The attraction at Mars Farm is set out to feature some of the most iconic dinosaurs, including the Stegosaurus and the Velociraptor. The scheme is being marketed as part of a useful tool for schools and children learning. Mars Farm owners James Sinclair and the Party Management Company, which took over 50-acre site in 2013, say the dinosaur-based attraction will form part of a children's educational experience at Mars Farm, providing both recreational and educational opportunities for the themed environment. He also has said the attraction will help schools with Key Stage 1 to encourage learning to include fossil hunts, dinosaur jigsaw and bone puzzles. But there were concerns the new attraction that feature 15 replica dinosaurs at the theatre will disrupt traffic along main arteries in the town. Figures on its website say visitor numbers are around 250,000 prior to COVID, more than 4,000 primary school children visit the site annually as part of school trips. Southwood Ferris Town Council has objected to plans over traffic concerns, given likely increase in visitor numbers and an extra 14,000 vehicles per year. It is formal representation to this plan, it said. The application for change of use is designed by the applicant own figures to attract a further 40,000 vehicles a year and thereby increase disruption to local residents. Council already get complaints regarding the difficulty of driving out the road into the Inch Bonning Road between Marshall Farm Road and Ferris Road. The noise generated by the site will increase. We do not believe the purpose of the change of use is education by increased football and therefore extra business to other businesses on the site. Chelmsford City Councillor Malcolm Sisney, the Constable of South Woodham, Cheatwood and Collingwood, told the Planning Committee on January 11th. Since James Sinclair took over operation of the site, the council has received a large number of plan applications, many of them retrospective. The effect of these applications is the nature of business has changed from educational oriented open farm to large-scale retail and leisure operation. Last segment of the day. My radio listeners, Wolverhampton Abbey crash, man and woman die after collision in Parkland, complete closed road. Think safety first. Essex Police shared a devastating update this afternoon. The man and woman have died at a serious car crash on Major Road in Essex was found. Emergency services found the scene in Parkland, Wolverhampton Abbey on Monday afternoon. As the crash was involved with a Mini and a BMW in the junction on Concrete Road. The man and woman occupant of the Mini were treated at the scene before being taken to hospital. However, they have now died from injuries sustained in the crash. The spokesman for Essex Police confirmed that investigators this incident, but no arrests have been made. They said we are now able to confirm 2 people have died after being involved in a collision in Parkland, Wolverhampton Abbey yesterday afternoon. We were called to report on the collision between BMW and Mini in the junction with Congreve Road shortly before 1 p.m. We confirmed the occupants of the Mini, a man aged in his 50s and a woman aged in her 30s, have died from their injuries. No arrests have been made, and specialist officers are working to establish the circumstances which led to the collision. We continue to appeal to anyone who either witnessed the incident or recorded it on dashcam to come forward and speak to us if they have not already done so. There's pictures online. Anyone with information, submit a form report online using the live chat function button on that page, which is available between 7 AM and 11 PM or call 101 and site instant 481 on January 10th. People can also call Crime Stoppers at 800 555 111 or visit crimestoppers.uk.org. Firstly, I'd like to I do criticise all parts of the government policy, legal authorities at times, but you can only be thankful for the work they do. You shouldn't criticise anyone. What I'm just trying to do is people try and make examples of one person, but all you got to remember is comparing and contrast the evidence of what some people get away with and what others don't get away with. So it's always important to look at the wider spectrum of things, because I'm not perfect, and I can assure you now, everyone else is not squeaky perfect. Try and be perfect, the best person can be, but we all get a second chance at life. What you got to remember, come back a better person and leave a good legacy for the rest of the remainder of your life. That's all you can do. Anyway, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to Proclamation of Gavin. I don't need to go into full detail of what I was getting at there, but it's up to you, whatever assumptions you want to make up what you said. Hopefully it will sink in and you feel of the wider spectrum of things. I see things good and bad on both sides of things. There's always an easy way out, and there's always an easy way led in by the critics. Take care, one love, speak soon, and I'll be back tomorrow. Hello, everyone on my application here. How are we all? How